Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Crash and Chug. In this episode, we have Brenda Gonzalez, who is a key member with S.T.O.R.M, San Antonio Off-Road Mountain Bikers. In this episode, I hope you guys come away with the same enlightenment that I did with regards to what it takes to build trails here in San Antonio. We get into a bit of her background in mountain biking and some of the obstacles that the group faces going forward, and ways you could help. New projects that are on the way, they're going to benefit us all. Going to get all this train moving in the right direction. I think there's a lot of promise and potential here in San Antonio. So sit back, relax, let's get into the weeds. Enjoy it on your way to your favorite trailhead or on the way to work.
I don't know if it is now.
Right. No, I didn't know there was trails back there.
Yeah, I think the research center, but then some kind of educational thing. They take the kids. You'll see school buses out there sometimes.
Nice. I need to go check that out. So, welcome. Hopefully the drive was not too bad, like, traveling and what have you. And
no, not for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. You say you don't live that far from me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on and just being willing to like talk and kind of. And we kind of talked yesterday, and I talked about like what I view like San Antonio being as far as like mountain biking trails and all the things that kind of the potential that's here, you know, and I know you as well as your colleagues within S.T.O.R.M have been trying to work towards that for some time. So you can kind of just give us a history, like for one, like how long you been riding?
Oh, that's a crazy question. I've been riding on and off since I was about 17 years old. Mm-hmm. Mountain biking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So started kind of in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. My dad got into it, and so he would take us mountain biking. And it was my cross training for cross country because I ran cross country.
Okay.
So that's how I got into it. Like I'd go do a lap or two. And then go run a lap.
Nice. On
the same route, and that was my like training while my dad was doing like laps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was here in San Antonio? Or?
No, that's in Laredo.
Okay.
So I spent most of my high school years and some of my adult and married life in Laredo. Mm-hmm. And so over there. When I was there, it was only pay to play one ranch, the Morales Ranch.
Okay.
And that's where we went every weekend.
To ride or like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I kind of wish, like we talked about this before, like many times, every time I talk to somebody that's just new to mountain biking, it's kind of like, I wish I would have had this when I was younger. So that's kind of cool that your dad kind of introduced you into it.
Yeah.
And how did he get into it? He just...
I guess he's always been into cycling. Greenways aren't new to me because I grew up in Indiana. And my dad, we've always been riding with Dad. And we used to go riding along the greenways out there. And they had greenways connecting the rivers and the parks in the city. So I was already used to having that growing up when I was younger and riding with my dad on a paved greenway. Mm-hmm. And then, we moved to Laredo and there wasn't that.
Yeah.
Like he's like big. He's big into getting outdoors and having fun and
nice.
Being recreational. So it was. Well, what do people here do to get outdoors? Hey, we go to this ranch and we ride our mountain bikes. It's like mountain bikes, and got into that, So. Nice. And then brought the whole family.
Yeah.
Came
definitely.
Out. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So you've I mean, it's kind of been ingrained in you for some time now then.
Yeah. And so when you're younger, it's like now it's really cool. Everyone has the group rides, my dad having a family. Well, we didn't go to group rides. We were like our own group. And so he was like, all right, girls, because it's my sister and I'm the oldest. Mm-hmm. It's my sister and then two brothers. And it's like, all right, I'm going to go ride. There's no way to get lost. You just keep turning right.
Yeah.
So we're out there trying to figure it out on our own.
Got you.
Like just the two of us, just boom, boom. Okay, this is how we're going to do it. Or how'd you do that, and just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
But when you're younger,
right,
that's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So were you like into it right away, or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because then I got married, I had kids. That was kind of difficult.
I bet.
So the ex did not like me mountain biking, so I had to
Got
hide.
you. Ah.
I had to say I was going to go cook out at my dad's
Oh wow.
and take the kids. My mom would watch them. We'd go ride, come back, bring clothes, get showered up, then cook out. It kind of like I don't know. I don't even know how to put it, but it was very much not liked by my ex. So
Yeah.
kind of had to hide to go do that with Dad.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of strange. Like.
Yeah.
Like when people kind of do that, because I mean I've had my shared past relationships that each one was different, and each person had their own insecurities and didn't allow you to do certain things for whatever reasons that didn't really make sense, especially something like mountain biking, because it's not like you're at a party or anything like that. You're out getting a workout in, or not even a workout, because I don't even feel like a workout, but that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's just kind of strange when people do that, but well, so you loved it that much, you still found a way to do it then.
Yeah. Dad always found a way to get me out there with him, and even entered me in races. Like I didn't even know I was going to race. He's like, we're going for a ride, and we're at someone's ranch, and it's like, what's going on? What's everyone doing? We're in a race. What?
Yeah.
He's like, I paid for your entry. Let's go. He did that a couple times to me. I was like, all right, Dad, I can't just be, I've got kids at home. If I get too, into it and something happens, for sure, the ex will find out I'll be like hurt, up in the hospital. And, because when you race, you don't want to take it easy. You just want to go.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah, tell me about it. It's kind of it's one of my things is trying to scale back. I wasn't even racing last time when I got injured, but and that's what's crazy because, so I understand what you're saying as far as like, racing. You're kind of in that go mode. Your competitive nature comes out.
Yeah.
So how did you do in that race?
I did good. I medaled, and was not happy because they were going to put the people's names in the newspaper. So I decided I was like, Dad, we have to stop. But then I fixed that situation, moved to San Antonio with my kids around 2006, going through a divorce and whatnot, and getting everything settled. The stress of new job, my own place, everything's on me, all 3 kids on me, and trying to go through the divorce process and going to therapy for that, getting help, to work everything out on my own. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this on, all me. I need help.
Right. And I commend you for that. That's big, because that's one of the things that a lot of people that choose not to admit that they need help exterior to themselves, like external help. And a lot of times they end up, and I speak from my own experience, thinking I got it, and try to just, like push it down by repressing it, and also, compounding my issues by trying to, like, use things such as alcohol, like, and it just, gets worse, you know what I mean? And to the point, but I'm glad I'm glad you came to the point where you identified that within yourself, and then did something about it, because it's real easy just to kind of pretend like nothing's happening, you know what I mean, and not deal with it, and kind of go on and show you're like that you're tough and all these things, but it's gonna spill out one way or another, either in your kids or your those next to you or what have you. It comes out one way or another. I mean, I speak from my experience, but it sounds like you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
No.
But so that's huge. So was mountain biking, and it's kind of a general theme, but was mountain biking a release for you as far as assisting you in your therapy?
Yeah. So along with therapy, I started telling everyone I need help.
Right.
mom, dad, brother, sister, like, I need help with the kids. Yes, I said I would take this on. I need help with this and that. And the one thing that dad did was like, hey, I'm coming up to visit. I'm bringing you a bike. Because I didn't have money to get my own bike.
Yeah.
It was like,
way to go,
okay.
Dad. Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. Like, all right.
Yeah.
And there I go. Boom. Where do we go? I'm asking my sister, like, because she was mountain biking here before I was. And so she was like, everyone goes to OP. And I was like, all right, let's go to OP.
Yeah. So that's kind of how you started. You were first introduced into the trails.
Yeah, here.
About what year was that?
2007. I think it took me about a year to get settled, like to be like, I'm securing my job. I've got a place for the kids. They're in school. They're doing normal life like we were before. But now it's just all on me.
Right.
So it took me about a year, and then I was like, okay. The following summer, I was like, all right. So then that Christmas, it was like, bikes for everyone.
Right.
Everyone's got bikes, and we're going to the spaghetti bowl, and we're going to the whoops, and we're going to. So there I go with the kids.
So you're like Oprah with the bikes, huh?
Yeah, everybody.
You get a bike. You get a bike.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that must have been a fun summer. And like, so did your kids get into riding as well?
They did. So they did. They would ride with me. We'd do OP. They loved it. They loved the spaghetti bowl. We were always doing the jumps. And then, that one line just under OP when you go past the creek. So it's like that big eroded section. The kids loved riding there. And we would just, ride the bikes, just, taking it down over and over. And the one that kind of got the kids scared was the whoops. The monkey loops, they call it.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, so that kind of was a little too fast, so we had to tone it back down to just doing trails. And then...
About what age were they?
Probably... My oldest was probably 11 or 12 when they were riding with me, and then the youngest is, 5 years younger than her, so 7. And then I made the mistake of taking them to Government Canyon.
Yeah. That breaks even the best of riders, it seems like.
I took them down Georgia. Instead of going, I think we did a little bit of the front country, and they're like, we want to see the dinosaur tracks. And this was before they were blocked off.
Oh.
You could go walk along them, or go visit them. And I took them down Joe Johnston, and that was it.
Yeah.
I'm like hauling bikes back.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing I didn't take my bike. I went running.
Oh, got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Because, you might have just been too far ahead of them. Or did they eat it? Or, did they crash it?
There was a few times that they did. And I think one of them had, an ankle situation. But that was on the walk back. It just made it worse.
Right.
It was like,
okay.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, no more mountain biking at Government Canyon. And... we still did hiking and running out there and stuff, so they loved all that, and they loved going out there and seeing the dinosaur tracks and doing all of that stuff. They just don't want to do it on a bike anymore.
Right.
And so it kind of turned into, we don't want to ride bikes anymore.
Yeah. That kind of happened to me too. So when I first started riding, was right about when I retired. I bought myself a bike, just on an impulse buy. Fast forward a little bit, I bought my wife a bike, and then my kids. So they live with my ex, and I kind of in a way to try to get them, to spend time with them as well, and kind of, do something outdoors. And I bought them bikes as well, and they were really into it in the beginning. But I think I may have pushed them too hard, too fast, but not even knowing it, just because, you know what I mean? But I could see the excitement on their faces in the beginning, and then something started shifting. I know my daughter had a couple crashes at Seguin, one at LCG, and then after that, I think she was discouraged from it. So, I've learned a lot of lessons from that, unfortunately, in that way, but you could tell there for a small glimpse, I should have just kept it easy, you know what I mean? So they don't ride anymore, most.
Yeah, the one that took to it was my oldest daughter.
Nice.
And she took to it. So, long story short, kids do that. I want to live with dad. I want to live with mom, back and forth. And so I guess she missed me. She was living with her dad at the time. And she was like, let's go riding. And I was like, well, I have Government Canyon planned this weekend. Okay. All right, let's do it. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And she killed it. She left me in the dust. She must have been about 15 or 16 years old. And she smoked me. And I was like,
yeah.
Where did this come from? She's like, I missed it. I forgot how fun riding bikes was. And I was like, well, where was all this? Because you must have been hiding it before.
Yeah.
And she loves it. On occasion, she comes back. So I always have extra bikes, and we're about the same height. She always comes back and she's like, I want to ride. I'm like, okay. I want to get her own bike when she's stable, like living in a place where she can, put her bikes away and stuff. Or she's got room for them because she loves it so much. Trail running, I mean, just like I did, so trail running and mountain biking. And I mean, not that it was, it's her own thing. She loves it.
Right.
Right. So, and she loves road biking too. But when she got older and she became an adult, we had those moments where it was like, okay, mother-daughter time. She even let her ride at McAllister Park at night. The second time she was clipped in, and on my old mountain bike, on my old Specialized, and I think she had only done that loop once before, and she did it at night with lights and helped me lead a group. She just took them for a loop. I was waiting for you. Y'all never showed up. And then we show up at the parking lot, Turkey's Roost, and she comes in with the group. And they're like, she did it. She took us through the whole thing. And I was like, okay.
Awesome.
Because she used to run it, so.
Yeah, so she was really familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange how, because I grew up here, and I didn't even know that those trails existed, but it's just, I wasn't ever taken over there I wasn't ever exposed to them. So, and it took, after I retired from the military, and then I drove through there, I don't want to say a lot, but I drove through there a few times in that area, but I never knew that there was trails back there. And I don't know how, what it's like for so many people that, kind of, I haven't been exposed that are from the city, they are not aware of it. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people, as mountain biking is growing over these past, exponentially, it seems like over these past few years. And I'm pretty sure you could say it's been growing for, I don't know, since 2007. But definitely seems more so lately. But it's awesome to see a part of the city that it just gives me a new appreciation for where I grew up, even though I didn't know that existed, which is kind of strange. So you ride, your kids ride. What kind of so you ride clipped in?
Yeah.
I haven't transitioned. I just ride flats just because I don't know. I like to kind of just bail when I need to.
I don't think I rode clipped in until 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
Do
you still race at all?
No. No, I did about a year and a half of the Timber Series.
Where's the Timber Series at?
So the Timber Series is the Texas Mountain Bike Racing Association, and that's where you have the S.T.O.R.M races.
Gotcha.
You'll have the Kerrville stuff that's going. So you have the fall series, which is going on right now. So the Kerrville, I forget what other races are going on right now.
Oh, those cross country or
cross country,
gotcha.
And then in the spring you'll have the S.T.O.R.M races going on. Or in the winter you'll have the marathon. So the Texas Mountain Bike Racing Association has 3 seasons: the fall, the winter marathon, the longer distances, and then the shorter distances in the spring, right? And S.T.O.R.M has 2 races in that. So we'll have the January race, which is the end of the marathon series at Flat Rock Ranch. And that's Miles of Discomfort. And then you have the Hill Country Challenge in the spring, which is the start, not the start, but one of the first couple races of the spring series. And that ends, I think, in May.
Mm-hmm.
I think in May.
Nice. So, like, you're talking about writing and stuff. Like, so what shifted for you in the sense of, like, where you felt like you needed? Well, I guess when you arrived into, like, okay, let me rewind a little bit. So how long has S.T.O.R.M been around?
S.T.O.R.M's been around since '93.
Since '93. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot longer than I expected.
I was like, I have a list that
Yeah.
they gave me earlier of all the presidents and the board members. So the founding members, let me see if I can pull that up, because I cannot memorize this stuff.
No, it's fine. We don't have to get in this.
But like, the first board was Howell Black, Christy Hogan. So Howell Black was the president. Vice president was Christy Hogan. And secretary was Aaron Shikocious.
Aaron Shikocious.
And then the treasurer was Ray Grund. And then you've got, you know, and they keep going down with all the different presidents.
So it's kind of been around for a while then. So when did you get involved in it?
So I got involved around 2014.
Okay.
Where it was like Charlie Cood and George Longoria.
Okay.
And Charlie had been president since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the last president in 2014, so that last year.
Got you.
And
so like what shifted in the sense of like where you felt like you needed to get involved with S.T.O.R.M? Like what were you seeing, or what did you hope to see?
I was just writing about and so I worked across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you I worked there, and my boss was a mountain biker.
Got you.
And he was like, hey, we're doing this ride, we're doing that. And I was always like one of the few women on rides.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never really see other women on rides. And I'd ride with him every so often as well, like at Government Canyon. Alone by myself on Leon Creek and stuff. And I never rode with really too many other groups.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me about how he was going to these S.T.O.R.M meetings, and S.T.O.R.M was doing this, and I should come out and volunteer, and they're giving back. The whole thing that appealed to me was the trail work and giving back, because I was like, I ride those trails all the time. I should give back.
Right.
And then he convinced me to help at one of the races, and I met the S.T.O.R.M members. So I met like George and Charlie, and then I met all the people that help at the races that help with S.T.O.R.M.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was really cool and fun-loving. I don't want to say I took my son that time. So I went and helped that one race myself, and then didn't have the kids that weekend, so I was like, all right, I'll do this. And it was so much fun just helping out with them, meeting Jimmy and Terry and everyone. It was, I was like, this is like a family. Like, this is,
Was that at Flat Rock?
Yeah, at Flat Rock.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, so then I was like, all right, I'll come to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going to the meetings. And I was like, hey, they do a lot.
Yeah.
They give back a lot.
That's cool. So they've been around since '93, and they, I understand like they're a nonprofit. They've been a nonprofit since around '93.
On and off.
On and off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they started off as a nonprofit, then it dropped off. Then when I became president, and I think it was 2017, I can't remember. At 2017, we voted to go back to being a nonprofit, and then becoming an IMBA chapter.
Got you.
Partner. Yeah.
So since being on with S.T.O.R.M since that time, what are like some of the obstacles you guys have run into just trying to get trails to San Antonio? I know you mentioned something about like naturalists, and saying that we're destroying the trails and what have you.
Yeah. So one of the when I became secretary the following year, so let's say 2015, that I joined the board, I got sent to a Texas Parks and Wildlife meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and it was for the the Texas State Park that's going in over by Tapatio, that area.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Abbey or something Kronkowski Ranch that's being converted into a state park. And there was a big meeting. Went over to the library. Wanted to go, say, hey, we're mountain bikers. We're nearby. We're here to help. Whatever we can do. And please, allow mountain biking in the park. And of course I did. I went, I think with 2 other members, 2 other people that were, helping out with S.T.O.R.M. And, you see everyone speaking so passionately about nature and the park and preserving what's there naturally, and parks describing what they're going to do. And one thing they mentioned, and I didn't even have to, probably assert that, mountain biking should be included, but they did mention that the trails would be multi-use. And that parks, when they develop Texas state parks, when they develop them about 20% of the park. Mm-hmm. And that includes the trails. So it'll be the camping, the restrooms, the educational centers that they put up. And that includes the trails to whatever they're going to make the trails. So people were already not happy when they heard that. And then I'd get up to say, I'm here with the South Texas Off-Road Mountain Bikers, and just want to say, because I had to switch with it. I'm really excited that you're including mountain bike trails, and we're here to help in any way we can. We have so many members. We already do so much trail maintenance in San Antonio, and we'd love to bring that and help out here. And they were really nice, but all of a sudden I'm looking around and you hear people grumbling, and then you're getting booed, and I'm like turning red, and I was like, oh my God, okay, what else do I have to say? Oh my, I can't. Okay, I'm all right. Thank you. I'm gonna sit down.
Did they even have like as opposed to just booing and stuff, like what were some of their arguments?
So the big one was, after I got up and spoke, was that the trails shouldn't be, shouldn't be going out back. That we should be reclaiming some of the property. Some people didn't even want trails. They wanted like a 2-mile loop. Mm-hmm. So that you could walk, and then the rest of it would be natural. But Parks understands that people, Texas Parks and Wildlife understand that people come to visit. And then the way people become engaged in nature is they go out and spend time in it.
Right.
And so they have the ability to develop 20-some miles of trail, like at Government Canyon. Mm-hmm. You've got 20-some miles of trail. They're allowed to do that because it fits within developing 20% of the property. The naturals, or those in favor of not including mountain bikers, because they said mountain biking erodes and destroys the trails more than hiking or more than running, which is not true. That's not a true statement. It's been proven since that mountain biking, hiking, and running all contribute equally to erosion, mm-hmm. right? So they all have about the same impact on the trail. There isn't one that does more than the other.
Was that like a Texas Park and Wildlife study, or
no? There's several studies. I can send them to you.
Okay.
Anybody usually puts them up. There was someone recently, I think in Texas State, that was doing a research here in Texas very recently. He
specifically to mountain biking, or just in trail maintenance?
Specifically to mountain biking.
Okay.
Trail tread. And so one doesn't erode more than the other, and actually hiking and trail running and mountain biking are about the same. Hiking probably has a little bit more impact. Like where you're going into the really minute details, or like horses, really destroy trail. They need to have their own equestrian trail, or like, mm-hmm. Things like that. It was whatever they're using, whatever logic they're using is something that was, probably taught much earlier before these research papers
So
came out. Yeah, so they're quoting something that is no longer true, or people have finally researched a little bit more, and they've found it not to be true. So there is more erosion because of mountain biking.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense too, because foot traffic, and then you figure. But I also see it also from I'm a little biased, I'm a mountain biker as well, but at the same time I understand it from the Texas wildlife, where they're trying to expose more people to nature in this sense. So if they want more people coming to the park, then they have to make other disciplines, if you will, like running, or riding bikes and all these different things. And I personally can attest to that, because not that I was never conscious about the environment, but at the same time, like when I went on trails, it kind of sticks out when you see trash on the trails. It's foreign, obviously, but it sticks out even more because you're always riding out there, and then you just kind of have more of appreciation for it, as opposed to when I first started riding. Just the more you're out there, the more you become aware, the more you see like trees and like all these different things. So yeah, and so like I imagine that's not the only thing, like naturalists and stuff like that. Like, so like how is it like dealing with the city, like when you have to go to these meetings and
we don't usually get pushback now we've got a pretty good relationship with Parks and Recreation, some of the parks, some of the groups in the parks, the trail runners. We try to partner with them quite a bit because we all use the same trails, right? So
and that makes sense to try to go in as a team.
Yeah, and that really works out well for us. I know that people have been asking for all kinds of things, like, well, why don't we have this, or why don't we have that, and or why are we getting things now that we didn't get before? And that's because...
What do you mean? Like, what are we...
Like, build trails or have more trails or expand. That's something that was really rough for the previous boards to do because of that train of thought. Because those people that were in position of decision-making roles in Parks and Recreation kind of had that same train of thought that mountain biking is destructive, bad for the environment. They kind of came from that school, that those naturalists were also, and not to say that anyone who's a naturalist thinks that way. It's not like that. It's a certain people who maybe learned that within a certain time frame, and then now they're learning that mountain biking isn't destructive, and more people know about it. And so probably since 2014, we, maybe before that, a year or two before that, we have a parks director who, and it's changed. We have a new parks director now, but we had a parks director that didn't follow that train of thought, that was of the new school, that was aware that mountain biking isn't destructive to the trails. And it should be included on the dirt trails or the paved paths, or, it's we're not a hindrance. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like, and I remember we were talking that both the regime changed at the Texas parks, and then also within S.T.O.R.M as well at the same time. It sounds like.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's also like been like as the and I guess that's why you're always kind of looking for like I don't want to say new blood, but like younger folks to join to kind of keep that like evolution going of the education and what have you. So speaking of which, like some of the things you kind of alluded to, like some of the things that we're getting now, like some of those things I know, like the you guys are responsible for, not responsible, but credit goes to you guys for bringing the pump track in McAllister, and
that was a joint thing with the Friends of McAllister Park.
Okay.
So wherever we're at, whatever park we're going to do a project in, we always look for the stakeholders. Like who can we partner with? Who do you need to talk to? Kind of like we should all be on the same page. It shouldn't be just like we're pushing this. Right. And so Friends of McAllister Park and Laura always had this, kind of wanted to bring a pump track. We're like, we're in. Yeah, let's do it. We're going to get S.T.O.R.M behind it. We're going to get the community behind it to really push for that with the, I think it was the 2017 bond, but they just finished it. So that was a big push. That was right after the bond came, right after I think the Little League or the baseball team that was going to try to build on the part of the Blue Loop.
Right.
And they wanted to acquire that property and build baseball diamonds there. And we're like, hey, there's trails there. And they're like, no, there's nothing there. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's trails that go through there. And so, everyone coming together in the community really pushing back on that and saying, no, we use these trails, really showed parks how important the dirt trails are, not just for mountain biking, but trail running, the people who love nature and nature photography. That part of the Blue Loop is on the Audubon Society's must-visit trail for taking wildlife photos.
Oh, wow.
So there's all of that plays in, and then we said, okay, let's join forces and push for the pump track to be purchased through the bond.
Right. So that's good. You guys were had a presence there, because if not, then there would be baseball diamonds there.
I mean,
more
they
than
have.
likely.
Yeah. I'm like, they have baseball diamonds, and what worked out is it worked out for that group too. They got a space that's for them, that they can develop. I think they were just looking for a space in that district to kind of develop. So they were like, McAllister Park. And we're like, whoa, hold on, there's trails there. So, hey, there's this other park here that you can develop that's, you can leverage.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, how long did it take, from cradle to grave, as far as, when you guys started with working with the stakeholders to put their pump track in, to, put the planning, the surveying, the finding the stakeholders, the meetings, to when it actually got put in? How many years was that?
When did it open?
2020 roughly?
2020, right? So 3 years. Because we didn't start working on it with Friends of until we were like, okay, we're not losing the trail. You have to, you get so oh, we're going to lose the trails.
Right.
That you're like, you can't think of anything else. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, what do you guys want to see in the park? Oh, here's a list of things.
Right.
And a pump track. And a skills course. But we only got the pump track and that small skills course. It was supposed to be an outer loop with a couple of walls to ride on. And that didn't get built.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then I think it's important, for people to understand, the planning process, where it takes all this time to, and I just know about this because being in government for a while, and then being a program manager, having to not only there's only so much money, and then you have other people that have their projects that they want, especially we're dealing with a municipality, a city or county or what have you, and then you got to go to all these meetings, and then you got to kind of pretty much justify why my project is more important than yours. And then, so yeah,
that was rough.
Yeah. So how much time would you say you take out of your personal life, or I want to say just you specifically, but you and the other people on the board, going to meetings and all these, to plan for things like these, all these bonds?
So right now is probably when we do the most, I would say the least trail maintenance, trail building, and the more attending meetings. So this does take a lot of time. This takes showing up to the meetings, which can be anywhere from an hour to 2.5, 3 hours long, right? Depending on what's being discussed,
Right.
how heated people are. If there's open to the public, when you get to go and speak and say your bit about, like you said, this is why it matters. To meeting with people outside of that to make sure you're on the same page, right?
Right.
So you've got to get your strategy together, and then make sure everyone's on the same page. Then show up to the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds a lot like my old job. We'd have meetings for the meetings.
Yeah. Basically, that's what we're doing. But with, in 2017, we weren't using social media so much. It was more face-to-face. Now with social media, like I said, just like sending stuff. It's like, hey, did you read this? I sent you that, whatever. Okay, we're on the same page. And when people are going to the meeting, they're ready for it.
Got you.
So you don't have to have that face-to-face. It's more of a back and forth for like 20, 30 minutes. And then you're like, okay.
Yeah. But you also kind of already laid the foundation of, making the connections, meeting with people face-to-face, establishing those relationships. And now it's kind of like, hey, just read this. Oh, I know who you are,
Yeah. And we're also more organized this year. So that was a lesson in how the bond works and how important it is for mountain bikers to have projects in the bond. Because we could talk trail building all day long. But if we really want to grow, you want to have those features. You want to have a bike park. You want to have the pump tracks. You want to have progressive features. Those need to be in the bond. Those need to be in the park's bond requests. Because those are
right.
That's a lot of money.
So go ahead. I don't finish your thought. But so I was gonna ask, like, so the next bonds that are coming up, like, what's the, like, if you want to, like, hey, I want these progressive features, do you guys have to go out and survey, like, the proposed areas, and like what are the steps that go in with that? Like, hey, I want a jump right here, I want to drop right here, or what have you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you just go out to whatever park and then walk it with them, or how does that work?
Right now it's high level. So you're right. We were like all on the same page. We want a pump track, blah, blah, blah. This is what we want. They showed us a picture of this like little kiddie pump track, and we were like, for the Mac pump track, and we're like, oh no. We're like, oh no, it's not like, ooh.
Yeah.
So, we go and do the research from the different companies and the different bike parks, and we're like, these kind of pump tracks, these kind of features, this wall ride, this jump, and then that goes to the contractor that gets it, right? And then they're like, oh, that's what they want. Right. And then they put it together. And when you're looking at it, when they're coming up with the final design, they'll reach out to you. And it's kind of like, have you ever heard the term subject matter expert?
Yeah.
They kind of reach out to S.T.O.R.M and say, hey, is this what you're looking for?
Right.
And then we're like, yes, no, yes.
What is that?
Maybe a little more. What is that? Why are you putting that there? We don't know what that is. You kind of tell them, hey, you kind of lead them to here. And so we always have something put together to like, hey, here's links to this video. Here's links to like American Ramp Company. Here's links to the people who built this. Here's the, you start sending them that so they look at it. And then they have an idea of realistically what the community has said they want to see. We just walked OP Shenable with a representative from District 7 because OP Shenable falls in District 7. Okay. But also District 8. Like, so the OP Shenable existing park up high, off the cliff is District 7 and District 8. But where the golf course is, it's just District 7. I don't think District 8 really hits that area, but it borders it. So we walked with a representative from District 7. We sent her links, explanations, what the community was looking for. This is what a bike park looks like, the rail yard, Valmont. This is how much they cost when they were built.
Right.
That's, not now.
Right.
But back then. So
at 5-10% or to it or whatever.
Yeah. So we're like, inflation, and this is what you're looking at. And they were like, what?
Yeah.
We had all those meetings. And I don't know if you're aware of that. So for the OP Schnabel Bike Park, we had all these meetings, and we had the community show up, and they said they wanted a bike park, and Parks, I think, understood. I'm not sure if the district understood. I think they kind of did, but not really. And so they're like, okay, we're going to give you 20 acres to put a bike park in. Next, we'll talk about the bike park.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to reach out through the years since 2018 or whatever that those meetings were had, and not really getting through to the district until this year. And then trying to get through and communicate, and it's hard, coming out of the pandemic and everything, people don't want to meet. And then finally we meet and we throw this out there, and they're like, oh my God, we had no idea this is what you meant by a bike park. We thought you were just going to have a pump track and some trails.
Got you.
And it's like, no.
Yeah.
We want jumps and wood features and, somewhere to practice skills, so progressive drops, and I know something we discussed with District 8 Manny was possibly 2 pump tracks, one for little kids and one for the big kids,
right.
Because I know Mac is getting used, and it's like the little kids, the big kids, do they mix together? And our discussion with him was like, kind of, okay, and what if we did a little kids one, just a small area for them? So kind of going through and explaining the need for that. I think they were just like, whoa.
And what's their pushback like from it?
There's no pushback at this time, but what we're seeing is that OP Schnabel is going to get $1.6 million for the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be enough. We're not sure if it's going to be enough or not, or if they're going to get more. But right now they're estimated to get $1.6 million.
Got you.
From the bond. McAllister Park got $2 million. And you see how that's developed, right? And I'll have to check with.
So does that money come from the district, or where does that money come from?
That will come from the bond. So when we vote, that's what the city council's working on right now.
Okay.
Where the money is going to be spent for streets, drainage, parks. Is it going to go parks and greenways? Is it going to go back and forth from drainage? Do they need it more? The streets need it. Like what? Right now they're deciding where it's going to go. We had a moment where last week, I know there was quite a bit of debate amongst the council people, and they wanted to reduce the amount that the Greenways was getting to 60 million from 110.
Got you.
Or no, I'm sorry, to 40 million. They were going to reduce it 60 million, and drop it to about 40, I think. So that didn't go through. So what we were afraid of is if that would have gone through, in order to complete the greenways, were they gonna, because people want the greenways completed.
Right.
They do. Would then Parks turn on some of the Parks project and take some money and move it over there? Like, you never know. So it's like, well, one, we need the greenways funded, but we also need the Parks projects funded.
Right.
You don't want to take from the parks to finish the greenways, but the greenways are extremely popular, and we're still pushing for these projects. Can we get these completed? What do we do? How do we push forward? So this year we got a little bit more organized, and we reached out to the community and asked for people to sign up to be representatives for the bond. Right. And we got 2 people in.
Okay. And so these representatives, you said, when you say representatives, what does that mean? Like
as mountain bikers representing the mountain biking community in their district.
So they live in that district and they're representing.
Yeah. So like for D10, it's Sean Christopher. And then I think for D8, it's Oscar Cervantes. And Oh no, I think it was just those two, but they also got appointed to the bond committee for parks.
Oh, nice.
So then now you have mountain bikers who are familiar with the type of things we want to see, right, in the meetings. Voting on things, saying, yes, the money should go here, no, the money shouldn't go there, and this is why.
And then they could also answer questions right there and then. If it was like, hey, what's a pump track, or what's this, or what's that?
Yeah, why? Because a lot of people are going to ask, well, what is this? And why do we need it?
Yeah. And then like places like elsewhere, like it's I think it's a steep learning curve for a lot of people on the city council, or just in this area in general, because mountain biking is such a new idea for a lot of people. Because just hearing mountain, in that term mountain bike, there's no mountains here. And then when they see a lot of these features and what have you, they're just kind of like, whoa, what's that? But if we're in Colorado, it'd be like a no-brainer. Like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, because it's been part of the culture for so long.
Yeah, man. Exactly. And we've got a city council member who's a mountain biker, and so we really appreciate him really shouting us out and being out there and representing.
I was gonna be my next question. Like, in the city council, like, how many people are like mountain bikers?
We have one.
One?
Yeah.
Nice. And hopefully he's educating other people, or at least trying to get them out riding.
Yeah.
I think that would be a big thing, is like to get some of these people making the decisions out to see the trails and to see, either offer them to go on a ride, or if they're, able to, and actually see where the money's going, or see how the community is out there riding and all these things.
They're out there. Yeah, that's the thing they don't see, is people are out there. So they are getting the numbers from the Greenway, but what they don't see is how much, and I think during the pandemic, this was a big discussion with Parks and Recreation, how much the dirt trails helped relieve congestion from the greenways.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we had those, because that was, you brought up COVID, COVID or what have you, and that affected a lot. People had to stay inside, and then that kind of increased the traffic on the greenways when people started learning that they were still open, the parks are still open.
Yeah.
And that also kind of alleviated, I'm pretty sure, a lot of stress from a lot of the people from the city, the taxpayers, or the members, or not, us as taxpayers going out and being able to use those parks to like relieve whatever stress, that was going on with COVID. But more so than that, it also increased the traffic, like you said. Now, I do remember you also saying something about along the lines that kind of hindered with some of the progression of not progression, but some of the bonds or the projects you guys had going, because of parks having to let people go, or yeah. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
It was really great, because like now you have an option for people who don't want to be on the greenways. They've got the dirt trails. We've proved our point. They're necessary, right? They help a lot. And Parks was really thankful that we had just finished Devil's Den the month before the pandemic hit, right? We had the grand opening,
mm-hmm.
and there was no one really out there using them. But I want to say at the end of March, I go to ride it, and there's people all over and they're like, where is this trail? I was like, follow the signs, just stay on the trail,
right.
It was great. We went to Parks. We were like, hey, and they're like, yeah, thank you. This really helps. Like, they saw the benefit of it. And just like everyone, I think like everyone in the city experienced the benefit of using the Greenway trails. And then those that have been using the Greenway trails for so long, saying, well, I don't want to be part of this congestion, discovered the mountain biking trails.
Oh, I got you.
And so they're like, well, now I'm going to use this. It gets me from here to here, and it's a little more fun, and it goes around and does this, So now you've got the city, Parks and Recreation, and the city seeing the benefit of the greenways, the mountain bike trails. Everything is great. We're moving forward. We're being keyboard warriors. We're like, because
yeah.
You can't meet with people in person.
Right.
So you're sitting there just like, with Parks and like going off on all these projects, and really excited about everything, really moving forward with these projects only via email.
Right.
And then when we get to the part where it's, let's go walk, let's go see this, they're like, well, we can't. We're shorthanded. We can't. We don't have a person who does this. That person, you know, for whatever reason, that person's not part with parks. And then fast forward, we're like, okay, well, we're ready to go. You know, things are open. Let's go meet. Well, we could have a meeting about it, but we also haven't hired back those people or haven't filled in those spots. Okay, well, we'll wait. And then it's like, well, yeah, it's going to be a while.
Oh.
We need to recover before we can fill those spots in. So it's like, okay, everything we worked on in 2020, we are barely walking now.
So meanwhile, like other like mountain bikers are not privy to this information. They're just kind of like, where are all the progressive stuff? Where's this? Where's that?
Yeah, because I feel so bad because so many people reached out to us with so many great ideas, and it's not like we dropped the ball. We put them out there.
Right.
And then we got to a point where it's like, okay, now we can't move on these until we do the next step. And we can't do the next step because they haven't hired the people to do the next step.
So you were just kind of like, you know, with all these good ideas, and you're just kind of like trying to look for somebody to help you, and nobody's there.
That was a tough one. That was like, you know, sitting around like, okay, well, we'll just work on this other stuff, you know. Which is something we can always do, is go back to do trail maintenance or erosion work on the existing trails. We don't have to, because it's not new.
Right.
So we don't have to do all that walking through and stuff.
Nice. So that's kind of like, I mean, that's one of the positives of COVID. It is that it made, you know, people go out and come off the greenways with they were used to, like push people out of their comfort zones and actually explore like different parts of the park system. And at the same time, it also highlighted, you know, that there was a demand for these trails within the city. So it also, you know, Parks and Recreation, I'm pretty sure they're always trying to fight for dollars too for their program within the city. And that probably helped them, you know, go to bat for, you know, some of the stuff that we all enjoy. Man, so having said all that, like, so it sounds like you guys put a lot of hours, and this isn't your full-time job. No.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, as I was telling you, I was like, I have a test tonight. So I know that for me, I work part-time and go to school full-time. And then I do this on my spare time. Like right now, things have become easier with apps.
Got you.
Versus before, everything was face-to-face.
Right. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's good that we have the technology to kind of keep the ball rolling.
Yeah.
But man, so like if you had a crystal ball, like, or if S.T.O.R.M had a crystal ball, I mean, other than like money, like where would you guys try to put, like, what would you guys build up, you know, within the program to try to be more efficient or more like with trail maintenance or with this or that, like what?
Yeah. So all of this is just like it brought attention and parks paid attention, more people in the community are paying attention. And so we're getting a lot of people volunteering and providing some great ideas. Right now we're working with Aeon Wen, and she's provided some really great ideas that we want to move forward on, which is expanding the board, which is, you know, something we can't do right now, but we're working on moving to maybe updating the bylaws, which is something we've always had on the to-do list.
Right.
But there's only so many things you can do between trail maintenance, trail building, and meetings, you know. But which was really great that she pointed out, we've outgrown our bylaws a bit. Not that much, but we've also outgrown the board.
Got you.
It shouldn't just be those 5 pieces. The one thing we've always had is like a trail stewards, and something that Patrick helped us do was like rename the trail steward program to like the trail crew.
Got you.
So we have a trail crew, and those people are people who are familiar with trail etiquette, trail maintenance, or have been out to the work days, that ride certain trails on a regular basis, or all the trails, and then just keep us up to date with down trees, erosion work needs to be done, something got, or a tree fell over and we need to call parks, like a big tree, something you can't just move. So we have this group that we call the trail crew, and they come out and they do trail maintenance in their nearby park. They're the ones that let us know what's going on. Oh, we got to reroute. This area is totally destroyed and gets underwater all the time, or we have to build it up. And we go through the whole planning with them, and kind of reaching into those people that are already there, already showing up, and saying, "Hey, you already do this. You know what fits that description," or even reaching out to the community and saying, "Hey, we have other roles," which we do.
Mm-hmm.
You already help us with this. What if we just gave you a role, or would you like to take on this other role?
Gotcha.
And that's what we're doing right now. So right now we have the nominations for the board out, but after we post the nominations, we want to put out there are other roles that we've always had I guess maybe in the early 90s they would fill,
mm-hmm.
but in the mid 2000s to 2000 teens or whatever, they the board kind of fell back into just the board members.
Got you.
And you have the trails manager, you have the membership manager, you have the webmaster, or what today would be like the person caring for the website or mm-hmm. social media. You have like 7 other roles.
Got you.
That people can help out with on a regular basis. Those people that really want to get involved, and then maybe working with those people that can help us, consult. Do we turn those into board positions next year? What do we do?
Right.
Because the community needs more people representing them.
Right.
And if S.T.O.R.M has a voice with Parks and Recreation, then we really need the entire community involved. It shouldn't just be 5 people from whatever area, and we're all from different areas in town, but the more voices you get,
push you get.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I've had these conversations with many people, it's I think there's a lot of people trying to do good things within the mountain bike community, but if we can get all these people on the same page and then kind of moving in the same direction, kind of echoing the same thing, then we'd get a lot more done quicker and faster. I mean, at least that's my experience in the military. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. So like what's on, I know you had said before that some things you have like learned as far as like the trail building aspect of it with Devil's Den, and
mm-hmm.
And so you guys have tried to like learn like that you, even though you have the numbers, now you, it's not always the numbers, it's sometimes a small team can do a lot as opposed to like 30 people out there. So like lessons learned, I guess.
When we changed hands, like the board, so it was like Charlie was president from 2006 to 2013, and then Kevin was president for a year, and then I think I was president, and now Jeff's been president for a few years. So that kind of change of hands, and we've always had, which is really great. I love this resource, which is one of the board positions is like the previous president stays on as a consulting mm-hmm. type of board member. I don't know if they vote, but they kind of, I'll have to look at the bylaws, but having the previous president on there to reach out to and get lessons learned is really helpful. But when we changed so many people from the board, and it was like, all of a sudden, and it's not all of a sudden, but it seemed like at some point we didn't have as much guidance as before. So then we're going into this kind of blind.
Right.
So it's not like the trail building was an issue. It's not like the trail maintenance was an issue. It was, lessons learned. We didn't have that carried on.
Gotcha.
And so then now you're like going out and you're having a trail maintenance day, and you've got 30 people showing up, and REI's there, and it's a big event, and you're like, awesome, we're getting so much done. Or recently we've been having like some of the military out, so we'll have the Air Force come out sometimes.
Oh, cool.
They do a lot of work at Devil's Den. Since it's nearby, I guess they can. Yeah.
What's the name of the program? And we could talk about it offline, but
yeah. There's a program that we get volunteers from at least twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. Yeah, they're really helpful. So, and they come out in their large groups, like 20 or so, if not more. And so you're like, trail maintenance, yeah, get 20 plus people out there. Trash pickup, yes, get 20 plus people out there. And then you go to do a trail building event and it's like, whoa, we can't have 20 people out there, or you can't have 12. Or if you're doing like an erosion work project that takes like maneuvering so many things, dirt, whatever, wheelbarrow, bringing rocks in and stuff and moving stuff around.
Right.
Too many people, one of the projects we actually had to break out in groups of 3, and there were 3 areas because 3 people work together better than 4 or 5 or 6.
20.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's the same thing with Devil's Den. We were out there and we're like, we need more people out here building, and we did, but we got more work done when it was like 5 of us.
Right.
Like a lot.
So it's like really like just scale of force, just understanding like what the project is, and then understanding like how many people is needed for that.
And I think the key was there were experienced people out there doing it.
Right.
Like you said, we went out there and we're like, oh, we're going to do this today. Okay. Boom. We all know what we're doing, right? We're all on the same page. You do this, you do that. You help me with this, and boom, everyone's doing their job.
Nice. So it sounds like going forward, y'all guys kind of have like a plan, and like so if it's trail building, the amount of team, like the members you need, and if it's trail maintenance, and how many people you need, which makes sense. So these are all kind of like lessons learned you're going forward. So having said all that, and it's good to like know all these things, I'm like learning a lot as far as like the nuances of just trying to get a trail in San Antonio is difficult, and I've talked about this many times before, that Texas, most of the land is privatized, so you have to meet with the owner. You can't just build, and if they build, then they can tear it down, and it's just a whole mess. But so it sounds like there's a lot of red tape that you guys have to overcome just to try to get stuff. And having said all that, like you guys have things in the bond going forward. I know you talked about Steuben Park, and you talked about a few other areas that you guys are so what's in the future for like S.T.O.R.M that you guys have on the horizon?
So this Saturday, is it this Saturday, November 6th, there will be the first build date at Klaus and Steuben, and John Rodriguez will be out there, and he's designed the trail. He went through the whole process, so you should have him on and talk about that whole process. It was fun. I like going out and doing the scouting, and where's everything going to go, and then presenting it to parks and walking through, and they're like, oh well, let's move it. Oh yeah, we discussed that when we knew we'd eventually maybe had to reroute that or something. Right. So we did all of that. He did the designing, and then of course after walking with parks, getting their whole, no, you shouldn't be here, or you should be further there, or you're too close to the boundary, he kind of moved things along the way he needed to until it was something that parks was okay with. And then they got the approval. Then we needed the right of entry, and the right of entry wasn't it wasn't like we couldn't get it. What they wanted is they wanted us to predict how long it would take to build the trail, so that when the park was ready for opening, the trail was ready for opening at the same time.
Right.
So it would be like a ribbon cutting, and you could do everything
at that time.
Versus it's a ribbon cutting, oh, the mountain bikers are still building their trail.
Got you.
They wanted us to provide estimates, and so, well, it could be anywhere from this to this.
Right.
And so we didn't get the right of entry until recently. So they're like, November is your right of entry. You can go in. And we're like, John, we can go in November. He's like, here's my build dates. So Jeff put those up on the Facebook page, the 6th and something else. And then there's some build dates in December. And right now I think it's just going to be raking everything in. So that property is it's very rocky, hardly any grass. It's going to be really challenging, really fun, some ledges, a lot of elevation change.
Nice. So it's like technical.
Very technical.
I like it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good challenge, especially since we've got a small sliver of area there that we're working with. We can't work within the whole park, so we've got this sliver of area along the boundary, and then a small area just on the other side where there's going to be a multi-user trail. On the other side of that, there's a small green area. So there is grass and there are trees, but only in this one section that we're working on. The other section's pretty much open.
Gotcha.
And just rocks and ledges, and it's gonna be.
So when you say like a sliver, like how like a mile or less than half a mile, 10 feet? What are we talking about?
I don't know how many acres. I want to say it's a quarter of a mile out.
Got you.
But the thing is, it's going to be, John has it designed. He's going to put it together so that you can get the most out of it. And then there's that area that's green where you can just kind of build these little winding trails that has less elevation change. So it's going to be a little bit easier, even though there's still a lot of rocks.
Right.
So easy, still hard.
Right. I got you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of Texas anyways. Texas is limestone everywhere, so it makes trail building in general just difficult. I know I had Kyle on, and we were kind of getting into the nuance of trail building and the rocks and like how to, do all that jazz and stuff.
And this is a no dig. This is the first time we're going to be in the natural area. So this is a natural area park.
Oh, so it's just when you say
kind of like Friedrich and Eisenhower.
Okay, I haven't been out of Friedrich or Eisenhower yet.
So those are no mountain biking allowed.
Got you.
And they're natural areas. And so this is going to be the first natural area park that mountain biking is going to be allowed.
Okay, and this is the mountain biking only
and this
section?
is the mountain biking only section. So because some people had bad experiences with cyclists, not just mountain bikers, cyclists, they voiced their opinion very loudly and they were heard. And so we don't have access to the entire park, but we still got to win. So we've got the mountain bike only trails. Right. So we don't get to be in the entire park, but we get a section of the park to ourselves, which is also a plus. Right. Especially with all the technical stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, and that's kind of a lesson learned, like for anybody that's listening, is that we got to be stewards of our sport and can't be, douches and just kind of running people off the road or not off the road, but off the trail. We have to be mindful of hikers and because, it bites us and, it bites us, just because we can't build like elsewhere because of those bad experiences that people have.
A win that came from that experience as well. So working this whole Clausen Stubing thing with John and the natural areas group, since it's a natural park, we have to build within certain guidelines, and the guidelines are even stricter than they are at McAllister or they are at Leon Creek or even Devil's Den. They weren't that strict. There's no digging.
Got you. So you just got to kind of whatever the land gives you.
What the land gives you. So there's a lot of there's a quarry nearby. So there's a lot of big rocks. So we're looking at building possible rock features there.
Nice.
So creating, taking John's creativity of seeing like, oh, we can't dig. That's all right because we've got all of this and we're going to make something out of it.
Yeah.
That really helped us because now. Another thing for the bond project is Eisenhower Park. Parks and Recreation reached out to us this year after doing that whole Clausen Stubing thing with them. And they're like, hey, we've got an area for you and we'd like to take you out there to go visit. And there's never been mountain biking trails. We're like, where is it?
Where is this magical place?
Mountain biking isn't allowed. And we're like, okay. And we get out there, we're like, they bought 100-acre tract on the other side of Eisenhower.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a lot of elevation change, and they want us to put, we told them, that's something that's missing in the community, the elevation.
Right.
And we'd really appreciate it if they let us put in enduro lines or some downhill runs, if we can, in that area. And they were all for it. And it's on the bond.
Oh, okay. And which bond is this?
This 2022 bond.
Oh,
so
nice.
if it says Eisenhower Park, they're going to try to develop that area. We don't know how much money, but some money is going to build a mountain bike park. They called it a mountain bike park, and we're like, it's more like trails and runs.
Right.
But okay,
you call it whatever you want. Just give us the land.
We're like, yes, do it.
Call it Banana Park. I don't care.
Whatever you want to call it. So we were like, oh yeah, okay, we'll send you pictures and we'll send you links of what we want to see, what the community will see. And this is where we're talking about what the land gives you.
Right. And that's kind of like, I mean, I'm novice trail. I didn't know very little, but the little bit I was doing, it was real trail building. I didn't know any better. But that's something I would look at. It was just like, I mean, it's also like work too, so it's like, it's kind of like, partially it's like, I'm being a little lazy, but at the same time also working smarter, not harder, so it's kind of like, well, that big rock's there, how can I use that rock? Or like, I don't want to take that tree down if I don't need to. How can I go around it or through it, or just try to use the natural lay of the land to try to get whatever elevation I need? Because you have to be creative in Texas, because there isn't much elevation. There's a lot of rocks, but but I think that's a benefit I talked about before. I think that's why that people, progress so much here, is because most of the stuff that we ride is not, manicured, and it's like real technical. It's loose, so you have to learn quick. And at the same time, you also learn like how to ride technical, track stands and all that stuff, that all comes into play, and you have to apply all those things while you're riding. So I'm looking forward to some of that stuff. You said that was at Eisenhower Park?
Yeah.
You said that?
Yeah.
And is that the IMBA one?
No. So, well, I don't think it was. So we did get some grants recently, and I'm going to make a post about which grant applied to which project. So it was like Clausen Stubing got some money. Almost Basin was the one. That was the IMBA dig in. So what we want to do with Almost Basin is go back, and there's been some destruction out there. We've been hearing you. We know that there's destruction, so we're like, okay, we'll go in and try to put signs up, educational stuff, and then kind of rethink what the trails could be, right?
When you say destruction, like, is there like just erosion, or is it actually people like digging?
People cutting down trees to make the trail wider. So that trail was one of the OG trails in San Antonio, and it was built. They were built back in the day, and when bars were about this wide,
got you.
They weren't out here. So, and you said Texas is technical riding, so it's all technical.
Right.
If you get out there. And even for bars this wide, there's places you've got to get in.
Wiggle around.
Yeah, but which is good. Like you said, track stands, practice. And I've been out there, and I've ridden them with some of the people who maintain them. And it's like, you got to do what? And you get on your bike and you practice, and you're like, okay, I can do it. But for bars this wide and people that want to go fast, it's not conducive to what they want to do. The thing is, what's going on here is the trail was built for a specific reason. For technical work, in an area that's pretty flat and has a little bit of ups and downs along the creeks. And trail builders do that on purpose. They'll create tight and twisty to slow you down, because they might have something coming up that you got to think about, or it's a multi-user trail. They want to slow you down. Trail builders actually build tight and twisty for a reason, and it's to slow you down, either because it's a multi-use trail or because there's something coming up you got to slow down for. When they build open, wider, that's your go-to run.
Got you.
Take the speed and go for it. And what we're hearing, I guess, is what we're seeing, the damage that's being done to the trees. What we're hearing loud and clear is that the community wants something a little faster, a little wider.
Right.
And so then working with the people who live there, working with the trail crew people who go out there and ride it every day and let us know what's going on, and kind of saying, hey, what do you want to see? Obviously, this person wants something wider that they can run faster through. We know you like the old tight and twisty, but really, did you love it that much?
Right.
Do we need to do something else? Just after this whole getting the grant together, going out to that group and saying, what do you want to see? What do people in this area want to see? It's a multi-use trail, so we kind of have to reach out to the entire community and say, hey, if we went in to put in changes, what would they be?
Right. I wonder if there could be like some type of a list of, or two things I thought about earlier. One, have you guys like as an organization with S.T.O.R.M like reached out to other organizations like in other states and just kind of try to learn lessons learned from them? Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the second part is like I wonder if there could be like something like, I don't know, like a suggestion box or but online for each area, where some people can actually put those not complaints but suggestions through.
That would be good, because what we did is, we're going to do it again next year, is we put out an annual MTB survey, and this was the first year we put it out to the community, and we heard back from about 200, just over 200 people, which is okay, but there's way more mountain bikers than that.
Right.
I mean, and we got really good feedback from everyone that answered those questions. So we kind of know what the community wants to see, but we also know that trails only exist on the north side, the northwest side, almost. They don't really exist on the east or south side or southwest side, so we're aware of in this area, that's what people want to see. And in this area, this is where people might want to see this. But then again, reaching out to, like, if you see destruction like that, you're like, well, obviously this person didn't answer the survey.
Right.
Because that's not what was said here.
Right.
You're like, and that's where you have to go in and say, okay, when someone's going to these extreme measures, what do we need to do here? Tell us.
Right.
And like you said, putting out a survey. So what do you want to see in Olmos?
Yeah, and that makes sense. I know one thing that we it's kind of switching gears a little bit, but one thing that I like, a new discipline that I've seen is those one wheel boards.
Yeah.
And I've seen them on the trails, which is cool. I mean, I don't mind them, but I also have been seeing some of the technical features that we spoke of, like that being moved, or like stuff smoothed out and stuff like that, and or just flattened out. And so I don't know, it's just something on the horizon that may be coming, with newer technologies coming out or what have you. And
that's something that I know we're in communication with some of the one wheel group people, and so they put out trail etiquette. But just like we put out trail etiquette, not everyone's on our social media.
Right.
So not everyone's seeing everything they put out. So we understand that, because we're back and forth with it. They come out to trail maintenance days. They come out. They're going to come out to trail builds. They like the technical just as much as we do. Mm-hmm. It's a challenge for them so whoever's doing it. And so at Olmos, we know it's a mountain biker.
Right.
In other areas, we may not know.
So it may be the same thing. Like they're not in the they're not in the community or talking to the community and before doing it, they're just doing it.
And so what some people don't understand is how important roots and the root system are. A lot of people will go and cut roots out. Yes, there's times when roots can be cut. Of course, if the trail is this line and the roots following that line, and you're kind of like slipping around, and it's not really an important route. Yeah, I'm like, whoo. But in some areas, like in McAllister Park, we had like a root thing, and we didn't know who was taking out the roots. It was a whole section, and it was by the yellow root.
Oh.
And they took so what happens is when you take those roots out that are holding up that dirt mound, it's just going to go back. It's just going to, it's going to eventually just erode away. and be nothing but like dangly roots underneath anyway. So each time you take roots out, you're just going to keep eroding that section away. And then eventually, you're most likely going to lose the trees that are holding up that section.
I know I learned something, about trees and like how they, like the network of trees like underground, and like how there was a study. Have you seen that study where they had two trees next to each other?
And they kind of talk to you. They communicate.
Like one of them's being threatened and they send stuff to protect it and vice versa. And yeah, so that's pretty fascinating and gave me a new appreciation for that. And definitely something I keep in mind, but it's also that education that needs to kind of go out to, especially a lot of the new writers and things like that are not aware of those things.
Yeah, because you're like, that's my favorite. Like, I love to launch that. What, do you want it to just like go away? Do you want it to be so eroded that eventually that tree falls over? Because we've seen that at OP, right? And so like at the spaghetti bowl before, it used to be pretty, I have pictures of my kids writing it, and there were no exposed roots.
Oh, wow.
And the trees were up, the trees that are down were up. And it was like this big mound, and used to fly. Like it was just a bunch of dirt, and that's why we loved writing it. So it was like, you'd come riding from, before the greenway was there, so you'd come riding through and you'd come down and you'd just fly, because just this dirt mound. And now it's like roots drop, right? It's like drop. That wasn't there. That was all filled with dirt.
Wow.
I would love to like post those pictures up so you can look at them now compared to how it was before. And then you'll see the tree, and there's that tree that's down. And then there's the other trees with their roots exposed. It wasn't like that.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine some of the flooding had to do with it, but at the same time, I would imagine also, us having to do with something with that as well.
And it's also not being able, because we didn't have a good relationship with parks, to get out there and do maintenance in those areas, or do erosion work, where now we can go say, and this is something I'm working with Parks and Recreation on, and I don't know what's going to come of it, the drops at McAllister Park. So I mentioned a while back, I sent an email, I was like, hey, what can we do about the drops, and kind of
when you say the drops at
something out.
McAllister, like new drops, or is this
the old drops that are there that people kind of take down into from the red trail down, that have the little the little run.
Got you.
I don't even know what they're called, because they don't have names, because people have been they were built in the 90s and people maintain them here and there, but there isn't like one group that takes care of it and maintains it. Well, I brought it up to Parks and I was like, hey, we'd really like to look into adopting this section that currently isn't part of the McAllister Park trails. They're not. Everything that we work as a trail, we kind of work with friends in McAllister Park, the people who've been riding there for years, the people who built those trails, and kind of work with parks like, hey, we want to adopt this trail, or we want this trail to be part of the network. And those drops and those runs aren't. And so anyone can go in at any time and change them, which is fine, but sometimes it's not safe. Right. Sometimes you come in and like someone changed it.
Well, and you don't know. Yeah, they put gaps and stuff or whatever.
Well, and the other thing is that my email, like we got a few back and forth, and that kind of disappeared. And then Parks got a call from someone. And their concern was the amount of erosion along the red trail where the drops are. And then they were like, S.T.O.R.M contacted us about this and they wanted to do something about it. So we have a reply to this person once we talked to S.T.O.R.M about how to proceed. And, I had a conversation with them, or we had a meeting, and it was like, well, you mentioned this, so what were your ideas? And it's, like talking about, hey, let's reroute the red trail a little bit, move it over, let's do something to save the bank. How we're going to have to figure out techniques to work into saving the bank and moving the red trail just a little further in so it's away from the bank. And then going through and creating and rebuilding some of those runs for some of the drops.
Got you.
So that they shed the water away from the drops so the drop doesn't erode in. Because you've seen them, and over time they keep eroding away. Well, you want to build that back up, and you want to shed the water off either the sides, not down the trail or back into the picnic tables.
Right.
So you want to build it up so that it stops eroding there.
Right. And that's one thing, like when I went to Colorado recently, and I was riding one of the trails there near Denver, north of Denver, and I think it was called like Four Sisters or something like that. But on that day there was a team of trail builders, and that's one thing they were working on was erosion. And I was just like, I just have a different appreciation for it. It's just like, one, like, they're organized in the sense of like, they have people out there that had shirts on and stuff, it's kind of like S.T.O.R.M. But they were doing the work, and I'm pretty sure they were riders, but there was one, because they had just, I don't know if they just had rain or it was just natural water coming down. But that's something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people that trail build don't factor in, is the erosion. Or, hey, when it rains, where does the water go? Like, do they walk out there when it rains to see where the water is naturally flowing through? And those are all things that you would learn over time. But yeah, it's definitely a concern, because once you start eroding, and there's only so much dirt in Texas, so once you lose the dirt, then you lose most of the trail.
If you lose the trees, and that was the other thing. So we had that meeting, and from that meeting, it's been like, well, what are your next steps? So I recently had a meeting, is it this week or last week? Last week with one of the people that works in the Hardburger area.
Okay.
So in the natural area, Hardburger has like its own crew, its own people. The natural areas have their own trail building and trail maintenance crews that parks provides.
Gotcha.
They don't do it for other parks, but they do it for Friedrich, Eisenhower, and Hardburger.
Is it because there are different type of parks? State parks, or?
I'm not sure where the funding comes from for that group, and it may be, because I know you've seen the signs out there. I've seen I don't know if you've seen them like at Friedrich or Eisenhower.
I haven't been to Friedrich yet, and I haven't been to Friedrich or Hardburg, but I've been to Hardburg, but I tried riding the trails, but I didn't really know where I was going, so I just stopped. I didn't want to get lost or whatever. So
they maintain, the trails are pretty cool at Eisenhower and Friedrich. Lots of challenging stuff, which is why they don't allow mountain biking, but also because the trails weren't built for mountain biking.
Got you.
They were built for hiking only and hiking and running only, which is going to be the difference with that piece in Eisenhower, where it's going to be built for mountain biking only.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm pretty sure a lot of community is.
But talking to that person from the crew and walking McAllister Park trails and talking about, well, we want to do some erosion fixes, and we want to do some rerouting, and we want to do some reclaiming of trails that were like, not that they were rogue built, because sometimes people do this, and I know you've probably run into it. People take like wildlife trail, and they just walk it, and then it just becomes this trail, and it was really never
right.
a trail.
It's like a deer path, or like I got you.
And so we're like, some of these social trails, they weren't, so this is why they're so eroded, because they weren't built with a purpose.
Right.
And it's just following that deer path. And, and this happens in OP too. It's like all of a sudden you ride in one direction, you're like, oh, there's nothing here. And you turn back around.
Right.
Kind of closing that up. And some people, what they did was they use those trails all the time now. And it's like, well, that wasn't meant to be.
Right.
And it's super eroded, or it's causing issues on this other trail. Either we're going to keep this one or we're going to keep that one. So, we got to go through that process. But with the jumps, going through with them and showing them, and they're like, oh, yeah, you can definitely move it over. You can start putting these bushes here or planting these trees, to help stabilize that bank. And then decide which, drops you're going to keep and work on, right? So that you can build those back up, where you're going to shed the water, but also like what they use, their tools. They're talking about these beaver dams, like things that you can put some stakes in, because it's not even the drop. Sometimes it's like the erosion, like where the water comes through, like you were talking about. Sometimes the water just comes rushing in and creating this huge empty nothing, and kind of destroying the trail, and then like creating these beaver dams on one side and then on the other to kind of, yes, it allows the water to come through, but what it kind of does is rebuild that area and create stabilization. So you would put these posts in and then kind of let the debris build back up and fill it in.
Gotcha.
And then the same thing on this side. And so eventually just the water will come through, but it'll fill in. And so you'll kind of get some of that elevation back. So going through those things with them, like showing them the trails. Oh yeah, this trail's like really eroded. Mud Creek, going through some areas, and it was like the rain did this awesome thing where it piled like a bunch of debris up, wood debris, over by these trees. Well, what we could do is close off an old trail that's super eroded that nobody uses anymore, because everyone's going around.
Got you.
So keep the reroute, but that trail that's about like maybe 10, 12 feet wide now, with no grass, just roots, no dirt. Like, I mean, I could like crawl through the roots. Like, it's so like eroded. No one's really using that. Take that debris, it's right there, and pull it in and fill it back in.
Got you.
And, just kind of, and put up the signs like, hey, being reclaimed, no longer being used, that's the new route. Follow this reroute trail or whatever. And just kind of let that go back to what it was. Let it, kind of heal and protect the roots that are there for those trees before those trees
get washed away.
Get washed away.
Yeah, that makes sense. So going forward, like if you could, like, I don't know, like what would you need from the community going forward as far as like, I mean, one, I'm hoping that one of the things they take away from this podcast, I know I'm taking away, is an understanding and appreciation for the amount of work that you guys do on top of your guys' regular job, and families, and time you're taking away from them, to do, like, get back to the mountain biking community, but also trying to build more. It sounds like you guys are hearing everything that the people that at least participate in the surveys, and trying to push that information forward, and you guys are having to jump over, like, hurdles and all these different things, naturalists and people, the city council, programming money and all these things, but so that's one thing I was hoping this conversation people could take away, is just like all the work that is like going into just trying to bring more trails to San Antonio. So like, what would you need from people going forward, other than understanding if they hear this podcast or when they hear this podcast, but on top of that, like where can they get the information and all, everything going forward, like, so that way they can better assist you guys in this and the community?
So this is really great because we appreciate the volunteers. I mean, we're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid. The board's volunteers, the trail crews, they're volunteers. The ride leads, the Rebel Betties, Annie and Amy, they're volunteers. Eric, Steven, I think, who volunteer their time for the Thursday night ride. I mean, we really appreciate all the volunteers, and we try to do our best to show our appreciation. We could probably do better. But if you're enthusiastic about mountain biking and expanding the trail system, so it's not just on the north side. I know for me, I'm real passionate about getting the trails to be all over town. Follow that Emerald Necklace, follow the Greenway, what parks are there. Let's get trails along there. There's a lot in the works, and we would appreciate, assistance in whatever your talent is. If you're good with helping with rides, come out and volunteer with the rides, with the ride leads. If you're good with kids, come out to the S.T.O.R.M kids rides and help us out with that. That's the first Saturday of every month. The rides are usually weekly, so you can help out anytime with that. If you love trail building, come out and help with trail building and show us you're enthusiastic about it. If you want to propose a trail, we've got locations for you to go and look at. It might not be in your backyard, but it's a start.
Right.
And especially like if you're looking to learn right now, John, and going to go do trail building with him right now is a great opportunity to learn how to build sustainably and some really cool fun trails. whatever your talent is, let us know. And we could probably find something for you. And like I said, we're really gonna expand the board so that there's more voting power from throughout the community. But also, these positions are important to have the trail manager, to have the person who does the website, the person who does the membership, because membership's important too. We often, hear people talk about Dallas or Houston or, or Austin. And what we're seeing, the big difference we're seeing is the size in our membership.
Got you.
And they've had membership for much longer than us. So in the beginning of S.T.O.R.M, they had membership and then they cut it. It just became like the races, the money we made from the races sustained us so that we could pay for trail maintenance. But as the community grows and the need of the community grows,
so does the funding.
So like we're talking OP Shenable, but one thing in our research, like with the Valmont Bike Park, it cost, I think the entire park cost like $4 million, but $2 million was specifically for the...
That's in Arkansas, correct?
Valmont, I think it's in Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
And it's, I think the rail yard is in Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
So we usually go to those two because there's more research on those parks and how much they cost and what went into them. So with Valmont, that park took quite a bit. I want to say that took almost 12 years. They started in the 90s, but they couldn't get started until 2005. And so the property was purchased by the city, but they couldn't really get to it till 2005. And bond funds paid for that, but $2 million in that time went to that park. But the organization, like S.T.O.R.M, raised $350,000 to be put into the park in over 2 years. So that was 2 grants and about $100,000 from the community in donations.
Wow.
So in order to get that park to be what it is, it took the bond funds and the community pitching in. And so this is something we want the community to be aware of, is that we're pushing these projects for the bond, the bike park for OP Shenable, and hopefully the enduro trails for Eisenhower. But it's also going to take us at some point. So we'd have to go back to the district and say, so what do you need to complete this? Because we didn't do that, and we didn't have the knowledge in 2017 to do that for McAllister Park and so that's another piece, and get the outer loop that's supposed to be an intermediate loop with wall rides. We didn't get that piece because we didn't know that was something we were supposed to bring to the table. So we were so new to the game.
Right.
We had no idea. So now we know. Now what we're doing is for McAllister Park, we've asked in this bond cycle, can we get the outer loop finished? Let's get those wall rides. Let's get the progression in there. Let's get what we were promised in 2017. Let's get in 2020. I mean, you already did the pump track. You already did the skills portion. Let's finish that outer loop for McAllister Park. But now we want this in OP Shenable and Eisenhower. We're going to push and help for the funds to go to those areas, right? McAllister, OP, Eisenhower. But what is it going to take from the community to help finish those projects? We don't want to leave them halfway, or at least, okay, so if you're going to put this in, let's create it in segments. You're going to build this, then this, and this. Just break it out so that we know that from the bond, this and this is going to be built. How much would it cost for this? Are we on the hook for it? Yeah.
Nice.
So there's plenty for everyone to get involved and do. Like, membership's important, but so is your talent, what you bring to the table, your enthusiasm. If you're, because there are people that don't trail build, so they donate every year. They're members. They donate to all the projects. That's great because they love riding the trails. We need that too. If you're like social media or podcasts, like what you're doing, that's your talent. And I appreciate this time you're giving me to inform everyone about what's going on.
I appreciate you coming on. I'm like naturally curious, like on like the nuances of everything, and I just know it couldn't be that simple as, it's like, there's a bunch of people that, create this organization and decided not to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, or bring progressive stuff. But I think it was just like a big let's say it. So it was like my natural curiosity, which I reached out to you guys and I went to that thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Like I've talked to you before. I foresee like San Antonio like having the potential to be something like Bentonville. This is a tourist-based city, and they're like, I was looking for tourism, like bring people to San Antonio. That's the main industry here. So why not make it even more of a place to visit with mountain biking, especially growing here. And if I imagine you guys can probably pitch that to the city as well. And hey man, it's in your best interest, as well to try to, invest in the city in mountain biking.
We pitch both. The one that has always worked out for us up till now, and especially with the pandemic, that really turned in our favor. The city is looking to do for its people and its residents. So yes, we do push tourism, but it does not match what the Riverwalk brings in.
Right.
So it doesn't match what the Alamo brings in.
Right.
Or the Spurs bring in. But for those of us that live here, and if you want to retain talent or attract workers here that you want to keep, then you're going to keep investing in your parks, in your dirt trails, in your greenways, because that's what those people are looking for.
Right. And it's primarily for the residents, but at the same time, it's like an added benefit to it.
The districts, and I know for the districts, it's a big help because in our survey, more than 50% people answered. So out of the 200, more than 50% answered that they get friends and family coming visiting just to mountain bike.
Oh, wow.
So if we get more people answering the survey and more of the community to show that this is what's happening, that people are actually coming here. You said that it's a tourism attraction. People are coming from Austin. Well, so we've got the pump track. They don't have that in Austin. So they're coming here.
I've actually heard some people from Austin say they prefer, some of them, not all of them, I would imagine, but like the trails here because it's a different, like, because there it's like really rocky and like it's a lot of elevation, but here it's a little bit more flowy and fun. So it's kind of like we offer both things, and it's like give and take. We go to Austin for different stuff and vice versa. They come
here. We enjoy their trails because they're different. And that's why I liked racing the Timbra series, because you got to go to every different place in Texas that was a must-ride location. Like, the races were in each area, in each ranch that you wanted to go to, or in each park that you wanted to go to. And so you would go and do your pre-ride, and you got to visit these places and know them, and what each area has to offer, and it's really important. And one thing I love is San Antonio's diversity. And you can go to Government Canyon and get some crazy, chunky ledges and just nonstop, taking far reaches, just like nobody's here. And just going or climbing, but then you can also go to Salado and just get all that chunk and just constantly be working hard to get your workout in. It's a short ride, but oh my gosh, it's a lot. Or you can go, and I've done this before, you can just go in Leon Creek and try to ride every trail there and get like 30 miles. And you're like, I need someone to pick me up.
Yeah, my legs are done.
I'm done.
Somebody help me.
Yeah. We have such a big, we just have so many different trails here. And it's like at McAllister Park, I'll take my single speed out there, or I'll take my gravel bike and I'll just go ride it.
Right.
Because you can, in some areas of it, you can just be like, boom, boom, just ride along.
Right.
And we have so many trails compared to some of the other cities, and we need to keep growing them because they're mostly in the north side. We gotta get some on the south side. We need to be in Pearsall. We need to be at Emily Kelly Park. We need to be in Southside Lions. We need to be in these places.
Well, not more so than that, but to kind of like circle back to earlier where you're talking about membership, all these different things, because the community is growing as well. You know, like the demand for the sport, especially since COVID, is exponentially grown. It's just growing everywhere, and then more specifically here in San Antonio.
And the San Antonio River Authority's got the Man's Crossing, the old catfish farm. Dude, right across from Southwest ISD, you know, that's amazing because the San Antonio River Authority is trying to create or plan for a trail that comes straight from the school under the bridge into the park. So now you've got where you're getting the high school kids, the cross country team, you know, coming out and running, or any of the sports teams that need to go for a run. Hey, they're going to go take that trail and go right back to school and whatever they're doing, football, cross country, basketball, whatever, get back to doing your sport. But they have that moment to get away and get in nature, reset and get back out, and the opportunity for mountain biking to grow there. You know,
and I think it's a huge benefit, like all around. I mean, I know we talked about, you know, the money aspect of it. We talked about the nuances of getting to work and all this stuff, but it's really the bigger picture is to kind of, you know, pass this you know, pastime forward to, like, you know, and it's really kind of circling back to when we were kids. You know, I don't know if you had a bike when you were a kid, but like it's kind of like that's why we love it. Oh, that's why I love it so much. I speak for myself, but I find that's kind of like a general like the consensus. You know, is like, man, it reminds me of when I was a kid. So fast forward, we're doing it now. We're like, oh my god, I wish I had this.
I lived at a dead end street, and I had like my cousin's old used BMX. And we'd go build ramps. Out of leftover anything. It was a dead end street. Just put something, you know, get over the bushes, whatever that's there, and you know, just fly. But now you're a little bit older, a little bit smarter, with some money, maybe.
I don't know about me, but yeah, I got you.
You know, but you can. Yeah, it takes you back. Like when I'm out there building trails, it's like, hey, it's like when I was out with my neighborhood friends and we were just building ramps and trying to see who could fly the furthest. You know?
Yeah, and that's the same thing. Like, and there's some science that goes to it as well with the, you know, being in nature, the forward momentum as you're going through. Like, there's something that happens in your brain when when your eyes are moving kind of like back and forth, where it's like contributes to like positive mental health. And I'm jacking up the science of it, but there are like studies that show that, you know, like running, walking, all these different things, but also mountain biking. And then also it's low impact. You know, we've been taking out veterans, you know, that, you know, can't run anymore because we did like 20 or 10 years of just running or whatever. Our knees are jacked up or whatever, but riding kind of gets you outdoors, and it gets you in that, it brings back that, you know, that childhood kind of aspect of it, if you're lucky enough to have a bike when you're a kid. And I've seen, even recently, we took out a veteran, and she hadn't, you know, ridden a bike since she was a kid, and we just took her on the greenway to kind of get her used to the bike. And it's just like positive feedback from her. Like, she was so excited, she wants to go again and again. And it's just like, you know, the only way we affect change is, you know, by affecting our circle. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my platform, the podcast and everything else. But, you know, just, you know, bringing people on, doing good things in the community, trying to push that information out, create the discussion, and kind of like dissipate like the confusion of like, you know, of like the misunderstanding of what's really going on, and like really try to get everyone on the same page and move forward and try to bring these positive things to, you know, our community, our kids, and, you know, everything going forward. I think it would be a huge benefit for any city really, to invest in their parks and to get their kids outside, because you know, it's gonna be, you know, back and forth, you know, allow them to reset. And not for nothing, I mean, a lot of studies have shown like the negative, or we're learning, a lot of the studies are showing like, you know, social media like has had on the kids and everything else. But to have at least that balance where they're out in nature and at least kind of get a break from it. I'm not saying that the internet's ever going to go away or anything like that, but if we can find that balance and you know, push that forward, and at least provide those tools so that way they can be a little bit more aware and help themselves. But yeah, like I appreciate what you're doing and the team over at S.T.O.R.M. and I know I for one need to get more involved either in membership or going out to the trail builds and stuff. I need to stop breaking myself is what I need to stop doing.
Yeah.
So but so where can people find you and like not you specifically but like S.T.O.R.M. like where are you guys on social media?
So our website is stormmtb.org. So the two M's together.
Okay.
No break, just one word, stormmtb.org. That's our website. You're going to find information about who we are, how long we've been around, or S.T.O.R.M's been around, what they've contributed, what parks are within our purview. So say like McAllister Park, Almost Basin, Opie-Chenable, Leon Creek, Salado. Now we're going to move to Class and Stubing. We're hoping to get into, we are going to get into Eisenhower. It's just, we're not sure if it's going to be through the bond or something else, right? Getting into Pearsall, getting out to the Man's Crossing and the San Antonio River Authority, and so many other projects that we know we've got in the works that we need to get to, but we want to take these out first, right? We're building a plan to try to get to all these other parks, but sometimes like we had no idea Eisenhower wasn't even an option, you know, and that got thrown in our lap, and we're like, well, run with it, you know. So there's S.T.O.R.M. If you look up South Texas Off-Road Mountain Bikers on Facebook, then we're S.T.O.R.M_MTB on Instagram, and the same on Twitter.
Awesome. Yeah. But like I said, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I appreciate you taking the time coming over here and talking to me and educating me on a lot of the things that I kind of felt were in the background, but I wasn't sure. But I definitely learned some stuff, you know, that you guys have to deal with every day. I have a new appreciation for what you guys do, and I look forward to the trails you guys, you know, bring forward to the community, and I will definitely try to make it out to one of the next ones as long as, you know, I'm good to go, or at least show my presence and just kind of meet people if anything. But thanks again for driving out here, taking time, and good luck on that test.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Now I got to get back into another mindset. I
got you.
But thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Right. And hopefully we have more conversations going forward. You guys, you're welcome to come out if anything else comes up, or you want to have a discussion about something else. You know, definitely, I'm open to all types of conversations. So appreciate it.
And we've got the other board members. So Jeff Jordan's the president, Josh Foss is sergeant at arms, Oscar Cervantes is the secretary, Robert Garlow is the treasurer.
Yeah, and I think I might reach out to John and see, get some specifics on that. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for listening. And got this music from Will Spitwell, Don't Feel Right, off his album Midlife Crisis. If you like this music, go check them out at Pushed Out Audio. They got tons of more tracks, newer tracks.
If I ain't got a stack, then I don't feel right. Can't let the top back, I don't feel right. My people doing whatever we trying to get right. But the truth is we ain't gon' ever be right. If my neck not shining, I don't feel right. If I ain't got a dime, then I don't feel right. They say it make the world go round, that's most logic. So when I ain't got no money in my pocket,
I don't feel right.
This is the reason we pursue it so steadily, value it so heavily, and kill for it readily. Sad how when the city veterans become dead residents over dead presidents. Evident, greed is what we driven by. Same time I understand I need money like hits and how high. But what would you do for it? Not a Klondike bar, I'm talking instant don't. Money talks in the gutter, getting it. You need friends that won't. Trying to purchase what you want, ain't got a rent to own. I'm in the same boat, looking for the trees that it grow on. Pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and so on. Heard them referred to as vague pursuits we go on. You know how they say broken career? No one. Flipping it any way to make it multiply. Sometimes we gotta hustle on the side just to get by. Don't judge me though, don't see me broke, say hi, and when I blow be coming trying to hug me though. All back, I'ma be the same in the dark or the limelight. Never change, just better change, or I won't feel right. I ain't got a stack and I don't feel right. Can't let the top back, I don't feel right. My people doing whatever we trying to get right. But the truth is we ain't gon' ever be right. If my neck not shining, I don't feel right. If I ain't got a dime, then I don't feel right. They say you make the watch me bring decades back. Double my worth quarterly, factor in inflation, adjust accordingly. Bet my net made on black, if time is money. Tryna blow a whole day in the mall in 30 minutes. Still have plenty of time to spend quality cash with my kids. Took a couple hours spoiling my whiz. Relate to this. I'm trying to see a month on my wrist, 6 weeks on my neck, 6 months worth in one check. Yeah, time travel means private jet, opposite direction, the globe spin. Switching time zones, landing before you left, just to ease your stress and skip a whole day when you return home again. If time is money, I can't donate mine. I give the middle finger to charity. Bottom line, time sharing means a baller getting his pockets ran, robbed and left iceless. If time is money, an inmate that's doing the long ride could tell you better than anybody. Life is priceless. If I ain't got a stack, then I don't feel right. Can't let the top back, I don't feel right. My people doing whatever we trying to get right, but the truth is we ain't gon' ever be right. If my neck not shining, I don't feel right. If I ain't got a dime, then I don't feel right. They say it make the world go round, that's most logic. So when I ain't got no money in my pocket,
I don't feel right.